Yes, some nods. Okay, good. Okay, so we have a little bit of a mix of people on here that are employees and then also some approvers. So I'm gonna just touch on the employee side and then more focus on the approver side and what it looks like and what you should be looking for as an approver. So once we log in, it should bring you up to your current month timesheet. One question that I get a lot, actually you'd be surprised, is I can't toggle back. Like I'm in March, but I need to finish my February timesheet. So there's a drop down right here where you can change your timesheet and you can go back and you can edit it. You notice that mine looks weird right now. It's clearly I can't edit February. So I've already posted my timesheet into the payroll, so it's not editable anymore. So if you ever see it and it looks like this, it's because it's already posted into the pay run. It can't be edited anymore. But typically, if you're in a timesheet, if I can find one that's not approved, just kind of ignore part of this. But if I go into somebody's that's not done, I'm still able to edit February. So a lot of times I'll get a call that says, I can't edit my timesheet because it's the previous, or it's already March. What do I do? You can edit your timesheet all the way up until it's posted into the pay run. So just so everybody's aware of how that works. So when you first log in, you're going to be in your timesheet. So I'm going to click on my timesheet. So this is what pretty much everybody's going to see. If you have your main job will be at the top right here. Mine says Business Office Payroll Manager. Otherwise, if you're a contract employee, you would record yours down here in contract hours, but you wouldn't have this top row. So everybody should be recording their hours in this top row. If you have more than one job, so if you're a para and you're a student monitor and you're a crossing guard, you'll have all three of those jobs listed up here, and your hours should be broke down in the proper boxes for where they go. I know that a lot of this is repeated now. A lot of you guys already know this information. We just need to make sure that it's super, everybody understands. Make sure that the breakdown is the same every day. So that's another mistake that I see a lot of times is every day needs to be the person's work hours. And if they're not, then you need to make sure that they're using some type of leave to fill in the difference. Every day needs to be whatever they're hired for. So if they're 6.5 hours, every day should have 6.5 hours in it. So whether it's 4 regular and 2.5 hours of sick or whatever it is, every day needs to total. I know that it can be kind of cumbersome in here to see what the heck row you're in and what's going on. My first recommendation would be to make sure that you shrink the screen to see it all, because I get a comment a lot of times, I have to scroll back and forth. It's such a pain in the butt. If you notice, you can see my whole screen. Can you guys see my whole screen right now? Not if you can. Okay. So on my timesheet one, if I use a control minus, that's how I shrunk my screen. Or if I hold control and plus. So if you notice, mine's actually at 80% screen right now. So if you were like having to scroll back and forth, you're probably at 100% view. If you hit hold control and hit minus, it's going to shrink your screen, and do it until you can see the whole window. So you stop pulling your hair out about having to scroll back and forth, because I know how obnoxious it is. Okay. The other thing that can be really helpful is, let's say you took a sick day on like the 25th. I'll go over here to sick leave and I'll click in the sick box, and then I'll tab my way all the way across to the 25th, so that I'm not over here like, okay, it's 5 rows down, right? And everybody's like nodding, going, yeah, that's a pain in the butt. I totally get that. So use the tab key. It can be your friend in that case. Okay, I don't want to jump off my stuff too much. So couple things that are really helpful. First one is make sure that you know where to find the work year clarification calendar. And this is for whether you're an employee or a supervisor. Make sure that you know that you can go to the website, and it's under the HR department, and it's under unions and associations. And right here at the top, it gives you these work year clarifications. Work year clarifications, okay? And I believe it's the second one. Yep. That will actually open. Can you guys see this Excel spreadsheet opening? It's going to open an Excel spreadsheet. You can't see it? No? Okay. Well, hold on. Boom. Excel spreadsheet. Okay. So this Excel spreadsheet tells you if your employee is like a 186-day employee, it tells you exactly what days they're expected to work. So what I would do is get proactive about this calendar and look at it before they already work the day that they're not supposed to work, because this is something that catches us off guard, right? We don't necessarily know everybody's exact days. So familiarize yourself with this calendar. If you only have a couple employees, you could print it and hang it in your office and know what they're supposed to be working. If you're the employee trying to figure it out, it tells you right here. If you don't know what number of day you are, Eden in HR would be happy to help you know what number of day employee you are, because we want to make it really clear what your work days are and what you're expected to be here. So any day that's a yellow is their expected work day and should have their full hours in it. If it's a green, it's a holiday and it needs to go on their timesheet in holiday, not be blank. It's got to be green to be holiday, and it's got to be in the holiday row. If it's a day, there's some weird days, right? Like January 18th is technically a holiday. It was a federal holiday, but it's not a paid Kalispell Public Schools holiday. So that's actually blank on a timesheet. It doesn't go in the holiday row. So everybody understanding that one? Yes, hopefully. Okay. So just make sure that you're aware which ones are actually holidays, what are work days. And so this is your first tool, is to go get this calendar, make sure you know what your work days are, make sure you know what your staff's work days are. Your second tool is on the website. I'm going back, sorry. On the website, and it's going to be under the business and finance department, and then the payroll department. And it says, are you having troubles entering your time? And maybe you're not, but maybe you just want a little tip sheet. This sheet, and of course, I'm going to have to share my screen again because it's going to open somewhere else because I have 8,000 screens. So hold on, bear with me. This one. Okay. This sheet is the next most helpful sheet for you because it talks about how to record your overtime, how to record it if the month ending falls in a previous month ends in the middle of a week. What happens? What do I do with holidays? What happens if I use sick leave, but I worked extra on a different day? All of that stuff is covered in this sheet, and it's super helpful. So if you just print this little baby off, or at least go read through it, it's going to cover 90% of your questions about what you need to do, where it needs to go. And I even put examples in there so that it's visually, you can see exactly what it's supposed to look like. The bottom of this one has other really important information. This comes up all the time, this subbing for a different position. So if you sub for a different position, so let's say you're a para and you sub for a teacher, or you're a student monitor and you sub for a para. So you're subbing for somebody in a different position than you need to make sure that you're recording it on your timesheet that way. And approvers, so office managers and department heads, I need you guys to make sure that the timesheet has this information as well. If it comes to me without this information, I can't pay them appropriately. So let me show you what that looks like on the actual timesheet, so we're not guessing what we're talking about. Go back over to this one. Okay, so here I am in my timesheet, and I'm going to put it down in this substitute internal row. It's this one weird gray one right in the middle of the blue. So let's say I'm a para and I sub for a teacher. So I'm going to put my 8 hours or whatever it is in that substitute internal row. And then the most important part is I got to come down here in this notes bar. And you're like, what notes bar? Because it doesn't exist. You go all the way over to the right where it says show hide and open it. And then you say subbed for Mr. Jones certified. Now, when I get this, I see that you subbed for a certified teacher, and I'm going to increase your rate of pay for those hours according to your collective bargaining agreement. If you sub for an office manager, you get an increase in pay. If a crossing guard subs for a para, you get an increase in pay. Everybody wants more money when it's entitled to them. So please make sure you give me the notes, because I am not a mind reader and I have no idea who you subbed for or what you did. So give me these notes and then I will gladly give you your increase in pay. Approvers, look for the notes. If you see something in the substitute internal row, check the notes. Okay, so now I'm gonna move into, well, one last thing. Hold on, I'm double checking my notes here, make sure I'm not forgetting something. Only other tip for, well, there's a couple tips for the employee. So on a non-work day, so we talked about the non-work days on the calendars, you are allowed to use your personal leave and your vacation leave on non-work days to essentially pad your paycheck. This was approved a few years ago by the district. So if it's like that January 18th day, it's not a holiday, but it's not a work day, it's me ringing. So you can just ignore that, all of you looking at your phones. If you have a non-work day, but it's not a holiday, you can use your personal leave or your vacation leave, not your sick leave. Sick leave you can only use when you're sick. You can use personal or vacation on that day to fill in your time, as long as you're eligible to use those types of leave. Okay. Same goes for over Christmas break. Spring break is coming up. So just a FYI in the back of your head, if you want to use some leave during those times, and approvers know that they can use that leave during that time. Okay. So on the use the leave during that time, something that I really need help with on approvers is the 90-day 6-month rule. So your employees cannot use sick leave unless they've been with the district for at least 90 days. And they cannot use vacation leave unless they've been with the district for at least 6 months. And with the district, so if they were a sub before and then they were hired, it has to be in the position that they were hired into. So they've got to be, they were hired as a para in August, let's say. They've got to work 6 months in that position before they can use their vacation leave. Now you're going to see the leave in here. So if you look down at the very bottom of my timesheet, you can see my leave bank balances down here. At the very, very bottom, it shows my balances. It definitely will be in there. It does not mean that they can use it. They're accruing it right away from day one. They're accruing what they can use eventually, but it's accrued on every hour they work. So you have to know that you cannot approve a timesheet with sick leave unless they've been there for 90 days. And don't approve a timesheet unless they've been there for 6 months that has vacation on it. Does that make sense? Can I get a few nods from those of you that aren't? Okay, perfect. And I need your guys' help with that because I look at over 300 timesheets and I'm literally having to look at it, go, okay, is this person new? I'm not positive. That name sounds kind of familiar. I'm looking them up one by one, checking their hire date. When you guys might have a handful, maybe 2 employees, 5 employees, 10 employees, and you probably have a pretty good idea what their hire date was. So you can really help me out with this one. Okay, so this would be super helpful. Okay, so now moving into, and I'm going to take questions at the end. So if you have a question, scribble it down on a notepad and I will get questions. Okay, so now moving on to if I'm approver. If I'm an approver, I'm going to use the approve time button over here. And there's 2 main steps to being an approver. I'm going to skip over to, I got to go to a department. I'm not picking on you, Laura. I'm just going to a department that I haven't pulled into payroll yet. So I'm going to go back into February. So this is what it looks like for you as the approver. This is your screen. You see all your people and you're like, okay, I got to figure out what they're supposed to be, right? And I know it's messy. You don't have to tell me. I know I don't like this screen either. And we're going to try to work through the best ways to get through this together. So there's a couple tips that I can give you. This expand all button up here, it's going to look really ugly for a minute. Just bear with me. I promise I have a reason for clicking it. Because if you've ever clicked it before, you look at it and you're like, that is the most unhelpful screen I think I've ever used for timesheet approving. And I would agree with you. But there are some things that you can use this screen for. Okay, so use the expand all button when you are looking for holidays. So if it's a month that has a holiday in it, hit the expand all and just do a quick look down your people and see, does everybody have the word holiday under their name? Because if they don't, then they probably record the holiday in the regular row for them. So that's your first red flag. Or if they do have it, then you're going to go over to the far right and see, is it 8 hours? Or is it 16 hours, or is it however many hours it is? And this is just kind of your first step. Like, does everybody have holiday? Yes. Okay, good. Then moving on to the next thing. This is also a place that you can look for if somebody's used sick or vacation leave when they're not supposed to, because you can just quickly go down this and go, yep, nobody used any leave, so I don't have to worry about that, okay? The other thing that I use this for, and I'm going to close the expand all because I really hate how it looks, is you can look at their totals. So you can look at their totals over here. And if you know what their normal work day is, so let's say they're a 6.5 hour, and I'm going to look at my little calendar and I know that February has 20 work days in it. So I'm going to do some quick math and go, their timesheet should have 130 hours. And if their timesheet doesn't have 130 hours, well, that's another red flag. Something's wrong, okay? So then the other thing that we're gonna do is you're actually gonna go into each timesheet to look at it. You've gotta click on the names and look at the actual timesheet. If you don't do that, you're gonna miss things. The only time you don't have to do that is if they don't have these 2 dots. Can you guys see these little dots underneath of these names? See those little dots? The little dots means that they have something extra on their timesheet other than regular time. So if you look down poor Laura's timesheets, there's not a single timesheet on here that doesn't have something on it other than regular time. So if there were no little dots, she could just go over to the totals row and say, all the totals look good, approve all, done, move about my day. But since she's got all the little dots, it's gonna behoove her to click on the individual people. So she's gonna click on the individual name and it's gonna pop it open. The next thing that I would recommend to you guys that are approvers that makes it way easier, in my opinion, is to add the Google Chrome extension, and you can look it up, Google Chrome or whatever browser you use, that opens it in a new tab. Did you guys see how it opened it in a whole new tab for me when I went to it? So when I clicked on Brittany's name, it opened a new tab. Are we following? Nod? Okay, thank you. If you're not getting that, it makes your life harder because you're trying to figure out, have I done that person? I don't even know what I'm looking at anymore. So if you open it up in a new tab, then I can look at her timesheet quickly. And then I'm not gonna do anything in here. I'm just gonna close the tab because she's already saved and submitted it. It looked good. I'm just gonna look at it, close the tab. The problem with if you do it the other way and you're risking using the back button, or if you click save while you're inside of somebody's timesheet, it unsubmits it. In case you've ever had that fun happen where you're like, I swear that I've done this before. If you're in an employee's timesheet and you click the save button, it unsubmits their timesheet. Okay, so if you're in an employee's timesheet, make sure that you just use that back button or the X to get back out to your main approver screen. Okay, if a timesheet is incorrect, you want to either email or go and physically talk to your employee about the timesheet needing fixed. Don't make changes within their timesheet. I would highly recommend you going to the employee and having them fix the timesheet. I have to do that if it's me as well. So the actual employee needs to go fix their own timesheet. Let's see. So the biggest errors that I see are leave being used when it's not supposed to be used yet. Days not being the person's total number of hours. So make sure that if it's not, and it's because they're out of leave, then they needed to email Micah Hill and ask for leave without pay. So if we don't know about that, that's something that has to happen. Making sure that holidays are on the timesheet in the holiday row, making sure that non-work days are blank. Internal sub hours. And again, when you come into this individual's timesheet, if you see hours in the internal sub row, just hit your little show hide button. And if there's no notes, then you need to go find out who they subbed for and have them add that note, or they're not going to get increase in pay and they're going to be upset. Let's see. I think I hit on all of that. Overtime and comp time is the other thing that's a little bit, it is probably the most commonly mistaken piece. So overtime and comp time is pretty much only going to apply to 8-hour-a-day employees. 7-hour-a-day employee that works 8 hours, that is not overtime. Overtime is only 40 hours in a work week. So even though they're only a 6.5-hour-a-day employee and they worked 8 hours, that's not an hour and a half of overtime. That's just extra hours that day, which are hardly ever approved, but sometimes they are. If you're an 8-hour-a-day employee though, and you have overtime, so how that's gonna look, let me just go get into my own timesheet so I'm not messing around with somebody else's. Okay, so how that's gonna look, well, how I do it myself, just so that you know that I'm not making this up. I'm literally going to record the hours that I work each day right there, just like that, in the regular row. 8 hours, 10 hours, 11 hours, 8 hours, 7 hours. Okay, let's say that's what my week looked like. Then I'm gonna do the math. Let's see, what does that add up to? 44. So I should have 4 hours of overtime or earned comp. Okay, so then I'm gonna go to Friday and I'm gonna go, I want it to be comp. So I'm gonna change this, I'm gonna throw 4 hours down there. And then I've got to take 4 hours away from up here. And then I check myself because I got 44 when I added it before, right? So now I'm going to come down to the very bottom, right down here at the bottom. It totals all the different kinds of the boxes right here. And I'm going to go 8, 10, 11, 8, 7, totals 44. And I have a 4 in the earned comp boat. I'm done. Looks good. Okay. So these things down here are your best friend. These additional boxes down here, because I can't tell you how many times somebody's got like 5 hours and 2 hours and 1 hour and it's all over, right? They've used all these different kinds of leave and you're like, I don't even know what they have. Use your little boxes down below where it totals it. Use your boxes, okay? Okay, and the last thing about submitting time, our very favorite thing that I think we're actually getting most people trained on because it's something that's a giant pain. You can enter your time daily and just hit the save button, but at the end, we hit the save and submit button and we check this fancy little box and then we hit submit. And if we don't do those last 2 steps, it doesn't actually submit our timesheet, okay? And then again, if I go back into my timesheet after I've already saved and submitted it and I save it, even if I changed nothing, but I click that save button, it unsubmits it. So in case you have ever felt like you're losing your mind, like you felt like you've done it before and this is deja vu, you probably just hit the save button, right? Because we all get so used to hitting save button when we're in any document ever. But if you hit save after you've already submitted it, it just pulls it right back out. Okay, I'm just double checking my notes. I think that was all of the things I needed to hit on timesheets. Questions?
All right, I didn't see any questions come up in the chat bar either over the course of your review there. So if we don't have any questions, we will move over to Bree Eaton. If you think of anything that you wish you had asked, go ahead and chime in either on the chat or at the end of the call. And Bree is going to present on absence entry in SmartFind.
All right. Okay, so I'm just going to really quick just touch on a couple things. When adding jobs online for full days and part-time or partial days, keep in mind our certified teachers, we pay them our subs half-day, full-day rates. So anything 3.5 hours or less is considered a half-day, and anything over 3.5 hours is considered a full-day. When entering jobs into SmartFind, everybody's contracted hours are already included in that. And so, for instance, say you're at the elementary school, you're a certified teacher at the elementary school. If you are putting in a half-day pay or a half-day job, it starts at 8, but then you're putting it till 12 o'clock. That sub is going to end up being paid a full-day pay. So we like to change the hours only for the sub part to 8:30. So it's 8:30 to 12. So we're just trying to be really aware of our sub budget and being just using it wisely, I guess you could say. And then when it comes to our paraprofessionals, student teachers, those are all an hourly rate. When it comes to those, especially now we have the early outs on Wednesdays, for those who are approving times, make sure you are really watching the end times for the subs, because I can't catch all of those. For one, you guys have the opportunity to have them stay till, the actual contracted, 3:30, 3:45, or they can leave if you don't need them anymore at that 1:30, 1 o'clock time. So make sure when they are signing out, you are emailing me and letting me know, just so we're not overpaying our subs. Because I can't watch that at all times, and I don't know when they're going to be leaving. Let me go back to my notes just so I can get you guys out of here. Oops. Multiple leave types and multiple assignments. If you guys, I'm just going to touch on that really quick. If you guys have multiple assignments, you can email me or call me and I can help you guys walk through that real quick. Same with multiple leave types. It's really easy for me to help walk you through or even just help you with it. I really like it when you email me, so I have documentation of everything that I can refer back to. Anything in the past, any jobs that are entered in the past, only me and Eden can do. So if something needs to be changed, then you just need to, again, email Eden or I, so we have documentation on it and we'll get it fixed for you right away. Future jobs, office managers, or Eden and I can change future jobs as well. So if you want to use a different kind of leave, we can change that for you. If the hours change, we can all do that for you. Eden, am I missing anything that probably we should touch on?
I think you hit most of our main topics on the agenda. The one thing that I wanted to talk to everybody about, and this is, you guys are doing great. We're having the process for approving the district emergency leave, which used to be the FFCRA leave, has been getting better and better as the months go by. People are contacting HR like they're supposed to. You office managers and approvers are catching things before they get too far. It has changed a little bit. The district emergency leave allows for leave for positive tests, for mandated quarantines, to care for someone who has either a positive test or is quarantined, or because they're caring for someone whose daycare is actually closed due to COVID. So there's some changes. Some of those leave types are paid out at full wage, some at 2/3 wage. And so it's a little complicated, and we do want to make sure that we're tracking so that we can use the leave appropriately. You're still referring people to HR. We're sending out a Google form that they complete. They get a reply back automatically based on their responses. And so it seems to be working well. But if you have any questions, let us know. District emergency leave is going to be under 3 different codes on the timesheet and in the absence system. It will look like this. It'll say DE, C19, Q, P, or CO. So that's positive, quarantine, or care of other. So as people are reviewing timesheets or as people are entering time and absences, those are the codes that you will be using if they've been approved to use those codes. So if you have any questions on those, just let me know. So we're coming, go ahead.
Yeah, I just want to know, does anybody have any questions in regards to the couple things that I went over with the half day, full day rate? Because I know that kind of gets confusing, especially with their contracted hours being in there. We just want to be aware of our sub budget, because if they are in there for over 3.5 hours, and it could even be 15 minutes over, we have to pay them a full day pay. So we want to be able to take advantage of, maybe we can use that sub elsewhere. But we need to let the subs know ahead of time, because if they're counting on those hours and they have an appointment or something, then no matter what, we have to pay them that pay.
I have a question.
Sure.
So on that note, so when a teacher at elementary anyway needs a sub, we start the day at 8:30ish. The sub does know to come in at 8.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Okay. So when the teacher puts in that request, they need to go in and change that time to 8:30 if it's a half day.
Yes. If they are okay at the sub leaving at 12 o'clock, or, just as long as it's within that 3.5 hours. During my orientations, I always tell the subs that they need to try to be there 30 minutes before. Obviously, that's not going to be the case in some scenarios, just because, by the time I get to a sub and they're at the end of my list and it's, 8 o'clock at that moment, most likely they're not going to be able to be there until 8:30. So there is different scenarios that we have to kind of take into consideration. But yes, we want that time change.
Okay. But the teacher needs to put that in when they submit that absence. So
yes,
we need to train teachers at the elementary level.
Yep, that would be great for all of you approvals. If you see those coming through and you see it's a little over 3.5 hours, either let me know and I can get it changed, just so we can only pay that sub a half hour, a half day pay.
But the sub will come in at 8.
Yes, yep, they should. because
they-
they are told in orientation.
Okay, okay, but they'll only get paid for 3.5 on a day that they would be end at 12.
Correct.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Thanks, Abra.
Yep.
Any other questions? And again, just you approvers, just be watching for all those early out days with paras or office managers. If the sub leaves early on the early out day, I need to know that they left so I can change those hours. So we're not paying them for hours that they're not there just because they are an hourly rate. Okay, I think that's all. Eden, do you have anything else?
Okay, so unless we have any questions from our participants.
Hey, Eden.
Yes.
Sorry, I want to show you guys one more thing that I thought of while you guys were talking, just really quickly. This actually came up today, and I thought it didn't occur to me until now that we can actually all see this together. And so I want to make sure that you guys are aware, approvers, that you can see the hours that your people are scheduled for inside of their timesheet. So I just want to make sure that you guys know that. So if you click on the person's name, right at the top of their timesheet, it'll say what their hours per day are. Okay, the only time that this does not match is if they have like 2 or 3 jobs. So they're a para, they're a student monitor, and they're a crossing guard. It's only going to show their first job. So don't call me and be like, oh, they're 6.5, but they're not. They have these other, it only shows the para job. But it'll be helpful for some of you. And, we actually just had one come up today where we didn't know that we didn't have it accurate. So you can actually be checking it when you go in to approve their time. It should say right at the top, like I said, unless they have multiple jobs, it says it right there, what their work day is, what the expectation is that should be on their timesheet.
Okay, thank you, Lacey. That sounds good. So I think we got a lot of good advice out of this session. It will be recorded. We will post the recording and make it available so people can review anything that they might have wanted to get a refresher on down the road. You can always email or call with additional questions that come up after the session. I just want to say thank you, first of all, to you who are participating. Thank you for being game to get some new training in so we can make sure that the process goes smoothly month over month. And then I also want to say thank you to our presenters, Lacey and Bree, for being willing to share their expertise with the rest of us so that we can make sure we're doing it correctly. Again, thanks to all. Let us know if you have any questions, and you are dismissed.
Thank you.
Thank you all.
Thank you.